This is the KUSI News at 6.
Good evening. I'm Sandra Moss.
And I'm Alan Denton. Thanks for joining us. We're following a developing story out of Scripps Ranch where a TV news sports director has been shot in his home. We've got live team coverage as police search for the suspect.
Plus, an American aid worker dead at the hands of ISIS. Now her heartbroken family is speaking out about the young woman they lost.
I'm Michael Turco. I showed you how she lost big bucks to a local contractor who went out of business. Now it turns out there's another contractor with a very similar name. They want to clear that up and help her get this job back on track. The Turco Files, KUSI News.
And I'm meteorologist Mark Mathis. Santa Ana winds will develop this evening and then last for the next few days, reaching hurricane strength. When will that happen? I'll let you know coming up in weather. Mr. Rudy.
Hey, Mark, the Cowboys are coming. The Cowboys of Wyoming are coming. Steve Fisher speaks of those Cowboys and the Go Pro giveaway. Details at 6:45. The news right now. You are watching the KUSI News at 6 p.m.
We continue to follow a developing story out of Scripps Ranch tonight. CBS 8 sports director Kyle Kraska was injured in a shooting outside his home earlier this afternoon.
KUSI's Sasha Fu is live at the scene right now with the latest information. Sasha, what do we know?
Well, we're standing in the neighborhood where this shooting occurred, the Scripps Ranch neighborhood, where earlier in this afternoon, multiple shots rang out and where CBS News 8 sports director was apparently ambushed right in front of his house. Behind me, over my left shoulder, you can see his house. It's a white structure with a red roof, and just in front of the driveway is his car. The rear windshield was shattered by multiple bullets. Now, this shooting occurred around 3 o'clock this afternoon, and police are saying it was not a random act. In a briefing that took place just about 35 to 40 minutes ago, San Diego police told reporters that they know exactly who they're looking for, a specific individual who is wanted for this incident, and police are now warning the public to watch out for this individual. He is identified as a white male, 54-year-old Mike Montana, the name Mike Montana. He is 6'3", 190 pounds, and Montana was seen leaving this area in a white minivan with the word Superior painting on the side of that white minivan. The van may have Arizona plates. Police say if you see this individual or his vehicle, do not approach him. Call 911. Again, we don't know if he is still armed, so do not approach him. One of the first individuals to render aid to the injured Kyle Kraska was freelance photographer
Bill Feather.
Bill Feather. I'm sorry.
Not a problem.
And tell me what you saw when you arrived.
I was driving down the street, saw Kyle in the middle of the street, covered in blood. At first, I thought he was struck by a vehicle. Got out of my vehicle, pulled it over to the side, and got out of my vehicle, tried to see wherever I could help. There were two other neighbors that came out, were putting pressure on it, and they were screaming, "He was shot, he was shot." I immediately told my friend and myself. We both called 911. We're both on the phone with 911, and at that time, a off-duty sergeant with the San Diego Police Department who announced he was armed came to the scene, cleared the scene to make sure the shooter was already gone. He assisted in the rendering of aid, and between me and the sergeant, we were relaying the information back to the San Diego Police Department's dispatch center. Just trying to give as much information about the victim as possible.
I'm sure your quick actions helped immeasurably. Can you tell us, was Mr. Kraska conscious? Was he talking?
I did not talk to him personally. He was, like I was saying, he was talking to the off-duty San Diego Police Sergeant, and that is how we were communicating his information to the police, giving us his date of birth, his location, his name, and that is how I first figured out who the victim was, as Kyle.
Bill, did you have a chance to take a closer look at Kyle Kraska's car?
I didn't get near the vehicle. Noticed it after kind of the situation was kind of dying down with us. I mean, we were here. We were just released after speaking with detectives. But, I mean, it's obvious that there was something that Kyle was near the vehicle or inside the vehicle. I don't know exactly where and when he got shot. But like I said, he was in the middle of the street, just kind of looks as if he might have chased after the van, and he couldn't, and just kind of collapsed in the street.
Right.
That's
that is actually one of the questions that reporters asked the police department today, whether he was shot in his car or near his car, and they were not able to elaborate on that. So thank you for that. We also don't know how many shots were fired at Kyle Kraska or the nature of his injuries at this time. One eyewitness, though, describes hearing a volley of 7 or 8 initial shots and then a pause, perhaps if someone was reloading, a pause and then a succession of 7 or 8 other shots. So as many as 16 shots reported by one eyewitness. Police are not telling us how many shots here were involved. As for the condition of Kyle Kraska, he was quickly taken to Scripps Memorial Hospital, where he did undergo surgery this afternoon. Sources tell us that his injuries are not life-threatening, but the hospital has not released any formal word on his condition at this time. We're live from Scripps Ranch. I'm Sasha Fu, KUSI News.
And we are hearing, too, according to Channel 8, that he was shot in his leg and in the left side of his stomach. They've posted that on their website. And also that the shots actually were fired in the rear side of the window. Kraska then began to pull out of his driveway, and more shots were fired, and then he was found face down on the driveway.
And of course, we'll be following the events tonight, the latest developments, and bring you the latest on his condition. Kyle has been a broadcaster here in San Diego for 15 years at Channel 8, and I was lucky enough to work with him for several of those years on the morning show. Just a bright light and a really fun and talented guy. He was excited about the Stanley Cup. He's a big soccer fan, hockey fan. And this was taken a few years ago. And I just saw him about 6 weeks ago over the holidays. And his family lives back east. He's a single man here in San Diego with a ton of friends and just a really great guy. So we're wishing him the best and hoping that he pulls through.
Yeah, a speedy recovery. I had not met him, but again, we wish him a very speedy recovery. It's certainly been a tough day for him and extended members of his family. All right, of course, we'll bring you more details as we get them here at KUSI.
Other news tonight, Kayla Mueller, the 26-year-old American woman held hostage by ISIS, has been killed. Her family and the White House confirmed the news earlier today. Kayla graduated from Northern Arizona University, and soon after, she started doing humanitarian work throughout the world. She worked in India, Israel, on the Turkish-Syrian border, and eventually in Syria. This is where she was kidnapped back in 2013. ISIS claims she was killed in one of the coalition airstrikes against the terrorist group, but now the Pentagon says that is not true. Pentagon sources say ISIS executed her. Kayla's family and friends held a news conference today trying to spread the word about this young hero.
Kayla's calling was to help those who were suffering, whether in her hometown of Prescott or on the other side of the world. She has done more in her incredible 26 years than many people could ever imagine doing in their lifetime.
You know, they tried to silence her. They locked her up. They kept us silent out of fear. But now she's free. And she says that she found freedom even in captivity and that she is grateful. And so her light shines. And we thank you for shining your light, not on Kayla, but shine your light on the suffering that Kayla saw. And let's tell Syria, we hear you, and we're going to do something.
Such a tough day for that family. Details of Kayla's captivity and the exact cause of her death are still blurry.
And in a sense, we are all victims of the execution of Kayla Mueller. Her death is an act of terrorism. But how is the U.S. and the world responding?
There is reaction tonight, not only from those close to the fighting in the Middle East, but also from President Obama. KUSI's Ross Becker is here now with that part of the story.
Sandra Allen, this war on terrorism, this war against ISIS is a real war. But so far, it's an undeclared war on the part of the United States. But because of this latest escalation, now that may change. President Obama is now reportedly ready to ask Congress for official authority to fight ISIS. And that would include the possibility of ground troops in Syria and Iraq. And it appears the Pentagon is already on board.
This department certainly supports a new authorization for military force. We believe it's appropriate and should be updated to reflect the kinds of military operations that we're conducting right now, particularly against a group like ISIL. So we're fully in support of a new authorization of military force. Point two is we're absolutely fully support that this needs to be worked by and through the Congress.
So while the Pentagon is ready, some Democrats in Congress may not be. Some are already saying the use of ground troops should be off the table. Republicans, however, seem to be ready to vote to give the president what he wants.
I want to win for the sake of this young lady and for the sake of all who have suffered under the hands of this brutal regime who's burned a man alive. For God's sakes, let's get on with degrading and destroying. I'm not worried about the politics here. I'm trying to convey to the people of South Carolina, I know you're tired. I know you're tired of being in the Mideast, but I'd rather fight the war over there before it comes here.
So while the politicians talk, some new estimates from the Pentagon say ISIS is getting stronger. It now has 20,000 foreign fighters in Syria and Iraq, and that number is growing. And as we found out today with confirmation about the death of Kayla Mueller, ISIS is getting more brutal. But in an interview this afternoon with the website BuzzFeed, the president underlined again that the U.S. will not pay a ransom to free anyone.
It's as tough as anything that I do, having conversation with parents who understandably want by any means necessary for their children to be safe. And we will do everything we can short of providing an incentive for future Americans to become.
Review underway. You're ruling out ransoms as anything even being considered there?
Yeah. Just as a general rule, what we don't want to do is make other American citizens riper targets for the actions of organizations like this.
The president also issued a statement about the death of Mueller saying, quote, no matter how long it takes, the United States will find and bring to justice the terrorists who are responsible. Really, it's similar to what we heard from President Bush right after 9/11.
You know, Ross, it's one thing for Congress to approve additional funds for battling ISIS in the Middle East, but also to put boots on the ground over there. That's a whole other story.
It really is. It's a major political question, but every time we get another one of these executions, and right now there was at least one other American over there being held that we know of, and there may be more than that. Every time we get one of these executions, it gets a little more dire, and you get a few more echoes in Congress. Maybe we do have to go in and do this. We do have coalition forces now. Jordan is sending 100,000 troops into the fray, and if other nations are willing to do it, at some point the United States may have to step up and do it as well if we continue to get these executions by ISIS, and ISIS continues to grow, as it obviously is.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks for the update tonight, Ross.
And once again, we're following this developing story out of Scripps Ranch. Police are looking for this man, Mike Montana. He's the suspected shooter of KFMB sports director Kyle Kreska, right in front of Kreska's own home. Now, police say he's considered armed and dangerous. We're following the story, and we will bring you live updates throughout our newscast as they become available. Coming up, she paid thousands of dollars to have her home remodeled, but the work was never completed.
But just a week after she got Michael Turco involved, there are new developments. The Turco Files straight ahead. KUSI's Michael Turco has new information tonight on two of his open files.
And Turco says it's a double dose of good news.
Something we could all use on a day like this. Well, last week I showed you how a woman paid a local contractor 10 grand for work that never got done. That contractor is now broke, out of business with a suspended license, so she's not getting a refund, but help is on the way. I showed you what happened when Jasmine Jennings hired an outfit called Home Remodeling Pros. In 4 months, all they did was tear off the old siding and leave a big mess behind. Mike Schneeman owns a totally different company called San Diego Remodeling Pros.
That was pretty disappointing to see that. You know, so many times contractors, there's a lot of bad contractors out there that give us bad name.
In this case, the name was so similar to yours, it made it even worse.
Yeah, when I heard that, my jaw dropped. I've been in business for a long time, have a great reputation here in San Diego.
He's right about that, and now he's trying to help Jennings get her remodeling project back on track. His company specializes in turning outdated homes into modern living spaces.
We do kitchen, bath, room additions. We work pretty much the greater San Diego area. I've actually been in business since 1987.
He's volunteering his time and asking his subs to pitch in, but he says this job could be a real challenge because of the way this big addition was built in the first place.
I think we can at least get her property back up to snuff, looking the way it was before it was all tore apart. Some of the expectations that the last contractor gave her may not be able to be realized, but we plan on at least getting her house back in order.
Now, just to be absolutely clear,
The name of your company is?
San Diego Remodeling Pros.
Fully licensed, bonded, insured?
Yes.
And a long history in town here?
Yes, I do.
All right, well, you don't really have to worry about that name game anymore because the only Remodeling Pros company still in business is run by a legitimate home improvement contractor, the guy you just met. Major progress to report now on one of my longest running files. 7 years ago, I exposed a doctor's office who took over city parkland and turned it into a parking lot. Well, the city finally did what I suggested years ago and threw the bums out. Take a good look at the latest development in this land grab fiasco in Middletown. A doctor's office had literally taken over city parkland. They got a revocable permit to use the land back in the 60s and refused to give it up. But the city went to court and won.
They are closing this parking lot, and they're going to begin the process of public hearings to turn this into a park.
So after all these years, they're finally getting serious about taking back this piece of public land.
That's correct. We were informed by Councilmember Gloria's office. There's no settlement negotiations. They're taking it back.
Well, remnants of the case are still moving their way slowly through the courts, but the city attorney's office says so far the courts have sided with the city every step of the way. It's good to see some backbone at last.
Yes, it is.
This was donated to the city 99 years ago by two local families, and the heirs certainly want it to be a park. It was donated for a park. It needs to be a park. It looks like it's going to be one.
Yeah,
all right.
Long time in coming. Finally going to happen. All right.
Thanks, Turco.
Thank you, Michael.
Michael Turco is always looking for ways to help our viewers. If you need a tough problem solved, give Turco a call at 858-571-FILE. That's 858-571-3453.
Coming up, Brandy Williams is having a whale of a time in Balboa Park.
Yes, she is at the Reuben H. Fleet Science Center tonight. Brandy?
That was a good one, Alan. I like it. Yes, there's a new movie that's debuting. It's the world premiere of Humpback Whales. I'll tell you why. This is a film you won't want to miss right after the break.
Another pretty day in San Diego.
And it's going to start warming up. Mark Mathis is here with our forecast. Mark.
Yeah, it is going to start warming up a bunch, Alan and Sandra, about 10 to 20 degrees warmer as we head into the latter part of the week. We're going to have those strong Santa Ana winds starting tomorrow morning, even stronger and more widespread through the area as we head into Thursday. Had some patchy fog earlier this morning, but then we just saw a lot of the sunshine. Temperatures were a little bit on the warm side today, about 5 to 6 degrees above our 30-year average for this time of year. But we are going to have some Santa Ana winds teetering back and forth between an SA1 and SA2 because we are going to have some incredibly strong winds. Humidity levels not less than about 15% in most of the area. We're going to be at about 15 to 25% through most of the area, but it does look like we are in store for incredibly strong winds. And the reason for that is we have an area of low pressure to the south, an area of high pressure to the north, and that's creating that tight pressure gradient, those strong northeasterly winds. Some cloud cover earlier this morning through Encinitas. There's that patchy fog in and around Lindbergh Field up through Encinitas and Oceanside earlier today. But the area of low pressure is just to the south of Baja, high pressure just to the north. Once again, strong northeasterly winds, and we'll show you how strong coming up in just a bit. So temperatures right now primarily in the 60s, 66 Lindbergh, 64 Alpine, 62 Carlsbad, and 60 in Oceanside. High wind warning, high surf advisory. We'll talk about it all coming up in just a bit. Back to you.
See you in a few. Yeah. Well, a brand new underwater adventure is now at the Reuben H. Fleet Science Center. Humpback Whales is making its premiere tonight.
It's a film that takes audiences on a journey to the mysterious world of one of nature's most awe-inspiring marine mammals. KUSI's Brandy Williams joins us live at the premiere with more tonight. Brandy.
Hey guys, good evening. Yes, as you can see behind me, the party has gotten started. This is a VIP reception for the world premiere of Humpback Whales. Now, you all will be able to see it this Friday. It's about a 40-minute documentary, something for all ages, fun for all ages, if you will. Kiddos are going to love it, and adults are going to love it as well. You learn so much about these fascinating creatures, and you cherish and appreciate the love story that it tells as well. Let me introduce you to Greg. Greg is the director. How are you?
Great, thanks.
Let's talk about that for a second, since Valentine's Day is right around the corner. The love story that you focus on in this film.
Oh, I think it's so delightful, particularly the love that the female whale shows for its calf. You see that happen in this movie. You see how the female teaches its calf how to do a breach, jump into the air. The first time that the whale does it and it hardly even gets out of the water. Second time it does a better job. You see how it teaches the animal how to forage for food, how to get used to the elements that this young calf will have to basically challenge itself with for the first year of its life before it then goes off on its own.
Wow, now you've been working on this film for about 4 years. Where did the idea come from, or the fascination come from?
Well, I wanted to show on the big IMAX screen what it's really like to be a whale, to get up close with the animal. You feel like you're right there next to it, underwater.
And that was challenging in its own right, because they don't really come around. They're not very playful, so to say, right?
No, you have to have a lot of patience when you're out there in the field shooting. They don't come right up to you.
Yeah.
Occasionally that happens, but you wait for that opportunity. When that happens, you jump in the water. Howard Hall was our main cinematographer. He lives right here in Del Mar. Yeah. My team is up in Laguna Beach. We spent 4 years shooting this movie, 3 different locations around the world.
And we really are going to enjoy it. Let me introduce you guys to Fred right now. Fred, come on over. Greg, thank you so much. How are you? Now, you're a marine biologist researcher. Is that the right title?
Yeah, you bet.
Now, how long have you been studying these animals?
This is my silver anniversary, 25 years.
Wow, incredible. What are we going to take away from this film? What are we going to learn and appreciate about these mammals?
Well, it's a moment of thankfulness that they're recovering in all worlds of the ocean and that our Earth still retains ecological health.
Wow. Tell us more about your job. I find it to be fascinating. Just day to day, what are your duties and how do you specifically study these guys?
Well, there's lots of techniques now. We go out on vessels and we live amongst them, respectfully study their behaviors and try to understand their mysterious ways.
Now, even though they're huge, how big are they?
Up to 55 feet, the adults.
55 feet. It's incredibly huge animals. We don't really have to fear them, right?
No, they are incredibly gentle. They gave up tooth and claw for Flipper and Baleen.
And that's something we're going to learn in the movie, right?
You bet, you bet.
All right, Fred, thank you so much. Appreciate your time this evening. All right, guys, so it opens Friday. It's going to run 7 days a week, every 40 minutes. So come down, check it out. That's for sure. It really is fascinating. Once again, it's called Humpback Whales. And I forgot to mention, you see that famous name right here, Ewan McGregor. That's who it's narrated by. So bring the kiddos if you'd like. Live from the Reuben H. Fleet Science Center. Back to you guys in the studio.
All right, I'm sure they'll have a great turnout. Thank you, Brandy. Coming up, we're going to take you back out to Scripps Ranch Live.
That's right. We have live team coverage as we bring you new details about the shooting of TV News Sports Director Kyle Kraska.
This is the KUSI News at 6:30.
Good evening and welcome to the KUSI News at 6:30. I'm Alan Dutton.
And I'm Sandra Moss. Thank you for joining us. Here are your headlines. NBC nightly news anchor Brian Williams has been suspended without pay for 6 months. This comes as the network conducts an internal investigation into accusations that he lied about his experiences covering big stories.
Students in California Western School of Law held a die-in protest today. They say they're showing support with black victims of police violence and the national movement to address that issue.
And the high surf advisory at Ocean Beach ended about half an hour ago. Waves as high as 10 feet were common throughout the coast this morning.
Back to our top story tonight. KFMB Sports Director Kyle Kraska was injured in a shooting outside his Scripps Ranch home today.
KUSI's Sasha Fu has been following this story, and she is live at the scene with the latest details for us tonight. Sasha?
This is an incredible story. CBS News 8 Sports Director Kyle Kraska has been in surgery today as a result of an ambush shooting that occurred just outside his house here in Scripps Ranch. The shooting in the 1200 block of Avanet Court occurred around 3 o'clock this afternoon as Kraska was evidently leaving for work. Witnesses described hearing multiple gunshots today. Some of those bullets apparently went through the rear window of Kraska's silver Mercedes outside his house. Now, tonight, police say they know exactly who they are looking for. This was not a random act. This is a description of the suspect.
His name is Mike Montana. He's a white male, approximately 6'3", 190 pounds, 54 years of age. Last seen driving in a white minivan with Superior painting on the outside of that van. If anybody sees that van or knows the location of Mr. Montana, we ask them to call the police immediately and not make contact with him.
And about 10 minutes ago, we had the opportunity to interview a freelance photographer who was in the area. He was one of the first to render aid to the injured Kraska as he was lying in the street.
I was driving down the street, saw Kyle in the middle of the street, covered in blood. At first, I thought he was struck by a vehicle. Got out of my vehicle, pulled it over to the side, and got out of my vehicle, tried to see wherever I could help. There were two other neighbors that came out, were putting pressure on it, and they were screaming, "He was shot, he was shot." I immediately told my friend and myself. We both called 911. We're both on the phone with 911, and at that time, a off-duty sergeant with the San Diego Police Department who announced he was armed came to the scene, cleared the scene to make sure the shooter was already gone. He assisted in the rendering of aid, and between me and the sergeant, we were relaying the information back to the San Diego Police Department's dispatch center, just trying to give as much information about the victim as possible.
Kyle Kraska is currently at Scripps Memorial Hospital, where we mentioned he has been undergoing surgery. He was shot at least twice, once in the leg and the left side of the stomach. Sources at News 8 say this shooting stemmed from some sort of dispute over a house painting bill, and neighbors tell us that Kraska's house was painted late last year. San Diego police are not confirming that as a motive for the shooting. They are only saying they are investigating this incident. Again, here is a description of the man they are looking for. He is 54-year-old Mike Montana. He is 6'3", 190 pounds, a white male, last seen in a white minivan with the word Superior painting on the side. Again, police are saying, watch out for this individual. Please call 911, but do not attempt to approach him directly. We're live from Scripps Ranch tonight. I'm Sasha Fu, KUSI News.
All right, Sasha, thank you for that information. In other news tonight, the attorneys in the Tiny Do case were in court today.
The San Diego man, whose real name is Brandon Duncan, has been charged with gang conspiracy to commit a felony. KUSI's Kristen Casado is here now to tell us what happened in the case today. Kristen?
Alan and Sandra, many are saying this is a First Amendment case targeting his rap lyrics, but Brandon Duncan is being charged under a law that says anyone in a street gang who benefits from crimes committed by fellow gang members is guilty of conspiracy to commit a felony. Duncan spent 8 months on jail and is now out awaiting trial. He was arrested along with dozens of others in connection with several shootings in southeast San Diego. Prosecutors cite Tiny Do's rap lyrics as just one bit of evidence in this case. Today, a judge shot down the ACLU's attempt to get involved, but the First Amendment issues covered in their brief will still be used by Duncan's lawyer.
The mere filing of these charges against Mr. Duncan, much less prosecuting him, much less holding him in jail for 8 months on those charges, is a clear and outrageous violation of the First Amendment.
The district attorney's office says this case is not just about rap lyrics that describe shootings, and now they're releasing more evidence against Duncan, including Duncan admitting to police he was a gang member, social media posts about killings, and association with gang members about moving girls across state lines for prostitution. Now, charges in that case were dropped in 2008. But Duncan's attorney says the DA may be going after his client now for those previous allegations.
So now I guess they're trying to justify prosecuting Mr. Duncan for some shootings in 2013 because his case was dismissed in 2008 for lack of evidence. I don't know if that's a justification at all.
DA's office released this statement today, quote, "This case had one primary purpose, to stop the numerous murders and shootings of African-American victims targeted by these gangs." While Mr. Duncan has made rap songs, he was found by the court to be an active gang member during the times of these shootings, end quote. And the DA's office says since the 33 defendants were taken into custody last year, gang shootings in Southeast San Diego have gone down by more than 50%. Now, Duncan's attorney has filed a motion to dismiss all charges in this case as per norm. A hearing on that motion is set for the end of this month.
And there is a reason why the district attorney's office is releasing all of these facts right now.
Yes, and they're saying we would like you media folks to talk about these facts because of the fact they didn't want to try this in the media. They wanted to stay back and not do this. But the fact that Tiny Dew and his lawyer have been going all over the country, including to CNN and national outlets, saying, I'm not in a gang. This is all about First Amendment. Why can't I say what I want to say? The DA says, hey, we have a lot of evidence against this guy. It's not just about the lyrics, and it will all come out, they say, in trial.
So they're using the media basically right now.
Perhaps.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, Kristen.
All right.
Two 911 dispatchers from San Diego who helped young children get through a family emergency were honored as heroes today.
SKUSI's Ed Linderman reports the children were honored as well for their courage during a crisis.
The setting was the annual conference of public safety communications people from all over the state, including 911 dispatchers. Also on hand was an organization called 911 for Kids, created in 1990 to address the mounting issue of 911 misuse. Its mission is to educate parents and thus children on how to use the emergency number properly, including what to say to the 911 dispatcher. As the conference of the California chapter of the National Emergency Number Association began, 3 young children who dialed 911 and the 3 dispatchers who helped them save a family member were front and center. 2 of the dispatchers are from San Diego, and one of them, Brent Peterson, was live with us on Good Morning San Diego.
Here's the soft little voice, and it was a question as to if mom was even conscious at the time, and she had some chest pain and difficulty breathing, and he kept his emotions out of it, put his stress down, and was able to give me the address. The cross street is very important, his telephone number.
And I'm sure you're going to tell the parents out there, have you rehearsed with your child, done a little role playing so that child is able to speak distinctly?
Right, and that's what it really does come down to is practice. And know your address, know at least your major cross streets around.
Unfortunately, because of traffic and car issues, none of the children arrived in time for the ceremony. San Diego Fire Chief Javier Maynard praised the dispatchers as the unseen faces of his department.
The people, when they're calling us, are calling us because they're probably having one of the worst days of their lives. And every little piece of the interactions they have with us are critically important, and it begins with these dispatchers.
This also brings us to the next generation of 911.
So not only will it enhance for critical aspects as far as medical issues, but also for crime issues. Is that someone can take a picture of maybe the suspect or take a picture of a piece of evidence that's out there and show us what's going on in real time.
Learning the proper use of 911 in an emergency can be one of the most important things we ever learn. That includes children. Ed Linderman, KUSI News.
Well, we had a very special guest in studio today.
San Diego native and photographer Lawrence Schillier sat down with Good Morning San Diego's Lisa Remillard to talk about just a few of his iconic pictures.
That's Hollywood Floyd Patterson in 1965, Las Vegas. Patterson lived in Oceanside, and I used to visit him all the time. My dad, when I was very young, used to drive me out to meet Patterson. But that's an early picture of the knockout punch in Las Vegas in '65.
I want to show as well this one that I found fascinating of Bobby Kennedy on the campaign trail. Right. Let's show it right now. It's him laying down, the one of him laying down in the middle of the plane.
This is the last campaign leading up to his tragic death in '68. And Bobby was like everybody else. I mean, this is from South Dakota, I think, either to Portland or San Francisco. And, he's sleeping there with his little Cocker Spaniel a little bit to the right. I mean, those were the days where you took the seat cushions and you laid down. We all did that.
Isn't that amazing?
Because when you're on a campaign, you're going from stop to stop. The only time you get to rest is in between those airplane stops, and you take an hour or 2 hours of rest.
Isn't that amazing? I also want to show this picture because I think it's fascinating. Lee Harvey Oswald in the Dallas Police Department. You took that photo.
Right. That was in 1963, November 22nd, late at night after he's arrested, being brought down to Captain Fritz's office. I was there at that tragedy. I photographed Oswald. I did, the iconic picture of the gun. And I eventually, that image
there it is right there.
I eventually became very close friends with Marina Oswald. She used to vacation right here in Mission Bay with my wife and I, and she brought the little kids out. Eventually, I would interview her for 5 days for a book that Norman Mailer and I did called Oswald's Tale, his years in the Soviet Union.
Schiller grew up here in San Diego, in Chula Vista actually, and started his photography while attending junior high school.
Well, it's time now to look ahead to the KUSI News at 11.
Ross Becker joins us now with a preview. Ross?
Sandra Allen, we are all looking for that magic potion when we think about starting a business. It might be in the name. Coming up tonight on the KUSI News at 11, did you ever wonder how Google came up with the name Google or Yahoo or any of the other now famous business internet startup companies, and why some are so successful and others just fade away? Well, some of those pointy-headed researchers at Harvard did a study to find out. They came up with the magic solution. They say there's one thing you can do in starting a new business to give it the best chance to succeed, and it has nothing to do with money. The story is new tonight on the KUSI News at 11 o'clock. We'll see you then.
All right, we'll be watching.
Yeah.
Thanks so much, Ross. Mark Mathis here now to bring us up to speed on the weather.
Well, what a fascinating interview by Lisa. That was some great pictures. All right, looks like we are in store for some warmer conditions. We're going to have some Santa Ana winds as well. How strong will these winds be? I'll give you a little hint. Some of them are going to be hurricane strength. We'll talk about it all coming up on San Diego's very own 6 o'clock news, KUSI.
Changes in the weather are coming, and it's going to get warmer.
Don't go changing. It is going to start changing a bunch. Winds, warmer temperatures, yeah. So let's start with snow. Let's take you to the Northeast tonight and show you this guy jumping in. He gets lost. Boom. Where is he? Where is he? Oh, there he is. I love that. That's fantastic. All right, here we go. One more time. Oh. Wow. And then here's a time lapse. Here's what digging out of snow looks like. Not quite this fast.
Oh, my goodness.
Can you believe that? How could you find your car? That's the first thing. How do you find your car? I guess you just kind of say, okay, I hope this is my car.
I'd be ready to go back to bed instead of work after doing that.
I'd call in and just say, I can't find my car today. I'll see y'all tomorrow. Today's worst weather is Hole in the Day Lake, Minnesota. Hole in the Day Lake, Minnesota, where the lake is closed every single day and night because there's a hole in it. All right, here are your headlines for today. High pressure forming to the north. Low over Baja. That's going to bring strong Santa Ana winds Wednesday through Friday. Strongest winds widespread through the area, covering the most part of the area, will arrive on Thursday morning. Warm, especially Friday and then again on Saturday. So here's our high pressure system. Here's our low pressure system. Tight pressure gradient sitting right on top of us. We're going to get those strong northeasterly winds and wind gusts tomorrow. 50 to 60 miles per hour will be the peak. Wind gust on Thursday around 70 to 80 miles per hour will be the peak. Then we're going to have another little cutoff low begin to push in here by this weekend, and that's going to bring a slight chance to get a little bit of rainfall. Rainfall today in parts of Northern California, Oregon, and also Washington, Idaho, Montana, and some parts of Wyoming. But high pressure offshore winds occurring today. That will continue tomorrow and be even stronger as we head into Thursday. High wind warning in effect from 4 a.m. Wednesday to 10 a.m. on Friday. High surf advisory still in effect this evening. All right, so what can we expect with our winds? Wednesday, 45 to 50 mile per hour winds in the canyons and the passes. Coastal foothills, 45 to 50 miles per hour. The western slopes of the mountains, 50 to 60 miles per hour, and that starts Wednesday morning. Thursday, that's when we have the strongest winds. Canyons and passes, 60 to 70 mile per hour winds. 40 to 40 mile per hour wind gust along the coast. The western slopes of the mountains could receive 80 mile per hour wind gust, and there's your hurricane strength winds right there, the coastal slopes of the mountains, and that starts Thursday morning. We're also going to warm up. So is this SA1 or SA2? Well, it's going to teeter back and forth because our humidity levels are going to teeter back and forth between around 15 to 20%. But our winds are going to be strong at times, gusting up to 70 miles per hour. So an SA1, most likely on Thursday, SA2. Now, 60s for the most part. 67 Otay Lake, 67 Bonita, 66 Lindbergh, 62 Carlsbad, 65 in Fallbrook. But with Santa Ana's, our humidity levels also drop. We're already starting to see low humidity levels in Palomar Mountain, Julian, Alpine, and Borrego Springs. Still fairly high through some parts of the coast, but as those Santa Ana winds and those northeasterly winds begin to develop, we'll see those humidity levels begin to drop as well. 66 the current temperature, 70 was the high today, and the coldest days of winter look like they're coming to an end. Normally we start to see an upslope on the dead of winter temperatures, and that usually lasts between January 10th and February 10th. All right, the rest of the nation, another area of low pressure beginning to push into the northeast, and Alberta Clipper will arrive later this week. Cooler conditions today. We'll see an Arctic blast later this week in the northeast and more snow as we head into the latter part of the week. So the late week, cold and snowy in the east, mild in the west. We look good tomorrow, but warm. Here we go. High tide, 2.5 feet at 2:46 p.m. Waves still 5 to around 8 feet higher sets, and the surge is going to be light. Here is your forecast. We're going to have temperatures in the 80s Thursday, Friday along the coast, back into the 60s next week. Inland areas in the mid-80s, windy conditions. Mountains, 50s and 60s. Deserts, 70s and 80s. We're going to send you Islands and Regal Cinemas if you go to KUSI.com or Facebook and give us this movie, The Perfect Storm. And that is the weather.
Very good.
Yep.
Thanks so much.
All right, here's Paul with sports tonight.
Hey,
Paul?
coming up in sports, gang, the Broncos loss makes the Cowboys visit an even bigger deal. And the Plays of the Week polls are now open. Shark attack coming up, folks. It's next. San Diego State Aztecs came out really cold Sunday in Boise State. They can ill afford a similar outing Wednesday against the Cowboys of Wyoming. At stake, well, the top spot in the Mountain West Conference standings would be then 6 games to play. Wyoming will be down 2 starters due to mononucleosis.
I pray to God you don't put that in the paper or guys will read it and say they can't get close to Nance if he plays. So.
They just put the gloves on, they'll be all right?
Well, some people say it seems like we're wearing gloves when we shoot the ball, so I don't buy that theory. We don't wear gloves either.
The Aztec baseball team will begin the 2015 campaign this weekend with a 3-game visit from Valparaiso. But as Rick Wills reports, the game served merely as a backdrop to a week-long tribute to former coach Tony Gwynn.
Tony Gwynn's celebration weekend starts on Thursday, when the Gwynn family will be part of the Aztecs baseball team accepting their championship rings at halftime of the SDSU basketball game with Wyoming.
Anytime we can see anyone from Coach Gwynn's family, it's always an honor too. Like Anthony is always around, and I love seeing him, talking to him, and I'm glad that they're going to be there tomorrow night and get to experience that with us because, man, I've already done it once. It's going to be fun again.
Friday night, the number 19 of Anthony Keith Gwynn will become the 3rd number retired by the Aztecs baseball program.
It's a celebration of what he did for, our baseball program and the entire university. Retiring his number, everyone's kind of asked me what number we're going to retire. And, he wore number 19 for 12 years on the Mesa as the head coach at San Diego State, so it seemed very appropriate.
Here at San Diego State, it's all about tradition, and the baseball program is creating a new one, allowing one player per year to wear Tony Gwynn's retired number 19 for one weekend series.
If I got that opportunity, that would just be amazing. I hold Coach Gwynn just at the highest level of respect. just an amazing human being. To be able to be the person to carry on that legacy as well would, just be an absolute honor, something I'd remember the rest of my life, and I would love to, put his jersey on. And
while Tony's not with us anymore, he's not forgotten, especially by new Aztecs head baseball coach Mike Martinez.
We won 42 games last year, won a conference championship, and hopefully I can just do a great job of carrying on what we've kind of built here, and if it's not broke, you don't want to fix it. So
from the Mesa, Rick Willis, KUSI Sports.
Thank you, Rick. Over on the campus of USD, Dale Lindsey is starting his second season as the Toreros head football coach. Spring drill's officially underway. The defending Pioneer League champs looking to improve on their first-round exit from the FCS playoffs.
Sometimes people can take it for granted that, oh, we were there last year, it'll happen. We just got to, manage it. Well, this doesn't happen. It only happens if you're willing to work hard. The thing about the players here is you never have to ask them to work harder. They'll do that. We just got to get them pointed in the right direction, find out what they can do, and allow them to do it at their best speed.
Here's what we have cooking tonight on the All Sports Report. That graphic is a little bit wrong, where those two games, games 3 and 4 are actually girls' games. Carlsbad at RBV and Morris at Mira Mesa will have both the boys and girls version. Girls soccer will have stops at Carlsbad and Olympian, as well as roller hockey down at Cass Park and wrestling at San Marcos. All those highlights coming your way, 10:45 on the ASR. Right now, here's Matt Gilson and the ASR Plays of the Week.
First up, a free kick off the foot of Johan Rodriguez, toying with the laws of physics and finding the back of the net for the Aztecs. Johan Rodriguez, candidate number 1 for the ASR Play of the Week. Up next, Horizon's Dejanay Carrington, going Steph Curry to beat the third quarter buzzer. The junior calmly launching the long-range shot. It's no sweat and all net for Dejanay Carrington, candidate number 2 for the ASR Play of the Week. More girls hoops, this time from Olympians Cynthia Green. The freshman getting into the lane and getting the Barnum and Bailey shot to drop. Cynthia Green, candidate number 3 for the ASR Play of the Week. Last stop, a diving stop. Christians keeper Amber Michael going full horizontal to keep the net clean. Amber Michael, candidate number 4 for the ASR Play of the Week. Cast your vote in 3 ways. Like your favorite play on the KUSI Sports Facebook page. Retweet your favorite play from @KUSI Sports on Twitter. Or like your favorite play from @KUSI Sports on Instagram. We'll have the results Saturday night on the All Sports Report.
Matt, also this evening on the CIR, on the ASR, the CIF search for the best school spirit in San Diego County will take us to La Costa Canyon. The Mavericks, one of 4 semifinal stops from the first ever Battle of the Fans. Last week, Allie Wagner and the CIF judges were at Mission Hills. They'll be at LCC tonight, and they'll also have stops at University City and San Marcos, where we'll be posting the recaps of all 4 of those visits on our social media platforms, and then you, the viewers, will decide the winner of the first annual Battle of the Fans. This week's ASR giveaway is a cool one. Who wants a GoPro camera? All you have to do is follow me on Twitter at PPRPapaPig and retweet the photo you see coming up. Your name goes into a hat. If you're not in the Twitter sphere, you can send us a postcard here at KUSI and address it to the ASR GoPro contest. We will pick the winner Friday night on the 10:45 ASR. And remember those dancing sharks behind Katy Perry during the Super Bowl halftime show? The left shark making national headlines for being a tad out of sync with the right shark. According to the sharks, those costumes were hard to see out of, and it was hard to sync up with one another. ESPN, well, they wasted little time capitalizing on the viral phenomenon.
Man, I can't believe they sent us down there to work.
Me either. Hey, I wasn't too out of sync, was I?
Nah. And if you were, I bet nobody even noticed.
But everyone did.
Everybody did.
See you on the 10:45 ASR.
All right, you
All right,
bet.
thank you, Paul.
Catch you later. Thanks. It's going to wrap it up for now.